The Foresnauts Web-Cycle is an example of a socio-ecological approach where a community can seek guidance from nature and use play as a primary tool for undergoing a transformation towards a kin-centric group. This cycle offers a strategy for navigating the final days of modernity, with the cultivation of relationality paving the way for our collectives and organizations to arise as new worlds. The reason we call this a web cycle, or a websicle maybe, is because while there is an intentional order where one step is meant to feed into and nourish the next step in a repeating cycle, the reality is that this process is omnidirectional and web-like, and the group can go back and forth among the steps or be in multiple steps at the same time. This web cycle is not a definitive socio-ecological process. It's just an idea, something to test and see how it unfolds in the real world, where it will likely be altered and diverted in many ways. Going to the land. This step is going to the land to listen, working on a sensorial, physical, emotional presence with the land, a non-transactional approach, free of goals related to growth or wellness or empowerment. Just seeing the stories on the land and being open to relational lessons and ecological wisdom that is found there. Rather than focusing on spirits or energies, this means that we just tune in to all the different plots that surround us in the multi-species world. What story does the shade cast by the tree tell us? Or what does the water held in the moss have to tell? What stories are you witnessing as an individual? What is the group seeing? Take this quote from Tyson Yunkaporta's Right Story, Wrong Story, where he quotes an Aboriginal elder. She says it is a law of relationality that you can only learn from the land. The first relation is between land and people, and the second relation is between people and people. The second is contingent on the first. Play. We don't just listen to nature. We do as children do in earth-centered cultures. We imitate nature. We become nature. We act out the stories, tales, and myths that we witness. Using games, theater, and pretend, we practice those relational lessons by playing out the stories we witnessed on the landscape, which may feature care, conflict, emotional openness, communication, cooperation, and other relational dynamics usually buried or underdeveloped in modernity. Play is not just socializing fun or eco-entertainment. It is building collapse resilience and providing a laboratory for eco-cultural adaptation to climate change. It is a place where we can make errors on the stage in order to be better prepared for the world-weaving activity to come. Additionally, play rewires the nervous system. The unconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's real, quote-unquote, and what isn't. So we can create new ways of being in the imaginal realm that will eventually manifest in real life. Synaptogenesis and pruning. As we organize and engage in collective work, we allow the changes and blossomings experienced in play to enter into real life. The new habits and ways of relating to each other that the land has taught us are available to be expressed in how we behave and connect in our daily collective experience, as well as in the social organization and structures of our communities and projects. We can more greatly embody the characters and cultures that awakened in us during play. Those parts of ourselves and ways of being and interacting that were latent within us and undesirable within modernity are given a chance to show themselves and participate in public life. These relational lessons that we received from nature and played out will include unlearning processes such as neurodecolonization and letting go of modernity's addictions, They will also ask us to incorporate and learn emotionally, interpersonally, and somatically the values of an earth-centered life, rooted in the indigenous worldview. They call on us to adopt collective responsibility, reciprocity, and the nesting of the development and maturation of each member. Group soul work. By allowing ourselves to embody the personalities and cultures of the stories from nature that we've acted out and then tested in real life, our human spaces can increasingly resemble the more than human beings and their culture of living within an entangled web of life. Through collective soul work, we return to play and the landscape as dimensions for working on the themes that emerged during synaptogenesis. With the help of these two dimensions, we can gradually make adjustments and refine the cohesion of the group, learn nature's ways, and implement the relational wisdom of the landscape in our group work. This way, the group's culture can more closely embody the eco-mythology of the landscape in which they exist. Imitating nature awakens the group's wild nature. As groups function more and more like organisms, the wild soul of these communities is revealed, and as the collective soul of this organism unfolds, its socio-ecological purpose and role within the landscape where it resides become more and more clear. Myceliation. By paying attention to the wisdom of nature, engaging with their stories, applying their lessons to our organizational practices, and exploring the soul and identity of the group, a community can create and nurture systems and structures that align with the functions and goals of that community. These systems and structures should support the life of the entire community, acting like care ecologies. When a care ecology grows, the expansion that occurs is in the ability to take responsibility. In other words, growing does not always mean increasing the capacity for regeneration or achieving more success and greater results. Instead, it means deepening relationality and inclusion. A care ecology type of community asks, how can we support the biodiversity of this place? Or how can we uplift the marginalized voices of this place? Regenerating the landscape does not just happen in the interests of human well-being and satisfaction, but in service to the needs of all beings. And within the human social world, expansion is not measured in terms of gaining a following, but in the increasing ability to include and uplift more and more marginalized people, so that everyone can live their purpose, not just those who are most capable of functioning within a competitive capitalist system. The type of growth that we are aiming for is one where people's gifts reach those who need them, and where everyone receives the care they require. The focus is on responsibility and reciprocity. Rather than seeking success within modernity, new systems are being developed, systems that can grow and flourish from the compost of modernity. Back to the land. After having played new possibilities that later took root within the life of the group, after having undergone a neuro-decolonial unlearning and an ecocentric relearning process, by being less dependent on the guarantees and comforts of modernity and being less expectant of them, the community returns to the land, more as a jailed organism and less as a collection of random individuals. Having worked towards a collective identity and done some collective soul work, there is greater capacity to perceive the landscape from a common experience. The many eyes and ears of individuals come together into larger organs of listening, capable of sensing and hearing things as a collective that the individuals could not grasp before, when they had not yet lived and worked through a process of community. The landscape is much bigger than us, and it takes a community to be able to start seeing them in their entirety and complexity. And so the cycle begins anew, now with a greater capacity to perceive the landscape. As a more mature and seasoned group, new stories can be heard, played with, and their lessons incorporated into the group's work. New aspects of the soul can be perceived, allowing the community to expand, take on more responsibility, and enter into deeper reciprocity with all living beings. That's the dream.